Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session. Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus, back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I'm buzzing today. I've got my mate back. You've been on recently, but he's back again. Nick McCann.
Good afternoon,
Nick.
Good evening, good morning. I don't know what time you're watching this.
Yeah.
What day it's going to be out. So hello,
For
it's
us,
good to be
evening.
back.
Let's keep it there. Mate, how you doing?
I'm all right.
No guitar.
I'm nervous. I do feel very exposed not having an instrument with me, but
Do you actually not know what to do with your hands?
I don't really know how to sit or anything. So if I do fidget, I apologise.
That was my big thing on stages. Do you know, because as a
Doing the
spoken word
poetry and
artist,
stuff,
you've not got anything there, and that's why it became so much theatrical hand gesture movement.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know where to put them, but I think I got more present, and pockets was all right. Because when I was telling certain pieces, I was like, I think I'm just doing the hand stuff to compensate.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realised, actually, I really want the words for this to be heard. So I went, just present yourself, put them in your pockets, breathe, and I went, And some of them are best performances with that, I feel.
Excellent,
yeah.
man. So you sort of feel a bit more kind of relaxed and a bit more like yourself when you're doing it.
At times, I suppose it's different to what warrants that at times, because certain poems, you're really going for it, and it's like, ba, 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 movement. But then that is all I deployed and all I thought about. I was like, I've got the code now. Mm-hmm. But then when it was more tender or something you really wanted to be considered or heard, I thought, okay, let's not just do what I always do and go into that mode. Let's try something new. Yeah, it was interesting.
I get that, because like playing guitar and stuff, have the same thing depending on the song that you're playing. Like there might be a song where I'm going like, playing with my teeth and all that jazz. And then there might be a laid back one where I'm like, I'm stood back and I'm never still, but I'm just a little bit more like swaying. I'm physically stepping back to like let the vocalist like be the center of attention or something like that. So yeah.
So
I get that.
Trying
Mood
new
reflective.
things. Yeah.
So.
Is that something you're really looking at the minute? Because we were just talking before the podcast. You've got your watch on now.
Yes, my granddad's watch, which is a lovely thing. The cool thing about this is it's old. It's so old, it's not even got a battery, so it's a wind-up.
Wow.
So theoretically,
old but gold.
It should never die.
Is it gold?
I don't think it's legit gold,
Yeah,
but
old but gold.
it looks all right.
It looks beautiful. But that's what we're saying, sort of developing as an artist. You notice when you get stuck into rhythms or stuck into this how-tos, and you develop a thing, but then you can get a bit rigid in that.
Yeah.
So you try new things. Same goes for life, you know. You can get into your rhythms and this is how it is and it all goes cool. But then how much introspection's being had and how much you actually developing. So where we're going to go into this podcast really is your mental health side and stuff. Because let's just be honest, we did a podcast a month ago, 2, 3. God, it might be longer.
2. I don't know, actually.
Wow.
It was quite recent, but it was a long time at the same time.
Mate, and do you know what? It's a beautiful reconnection. I loved it. But there was probably 2 things happening. Me as the host, I'm guiding the conversation. And I wanted to just catch up with an old friend on all the good stuff. But I knew you'd had a loss in your life. And the thing for me is I don't know how to even approach them things. I find it really difficult as a friend to say something. And I think we just realised, it was a beautiful podcast. Let's just keep it there. But we decided now, no, actually, that was something that would have been really interesting to look at and to handle. So are you in very introspective part of your life in all aspects and avenues?
Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
I guess I think in a cliche way, like if you experience a death, there's that whole, oh my God, you look at your own life aspect, you know, mortality comes into it and all that jazz and health and everything. But I think for me, it's just been a case of realizing how I can exist now that, you know, my world is essentially broken, basically. So, you know, I mean, my dad's been gone. My dad passed away on the 12th of June last year, which in retrospect is a long time, and it doesn't feel like a long time. But it's always going to feel so recent to me, regardless. But for me, it's kind of helped me embark on this journey, because I've been faced with a lot of brick walls in my eyes, because I'm a dad and I'm self-employed and I'm a husband, and it's not just me who's lost my dad. You know, my mum's lost her husband, and my sister's lost her dad as well. So it's just been kind of like trying to work out what I can do to keep going and keep pushing forward in order to be stable for everybody else, you know, and, you know, not fall apart at the same time.
Mate.
So trying new things has been quite a big thing. Like, I guess not necessarily trying new things in the work environment, but taking on more work. Like, more opportunities have come my way in the past few months, which has been great. I love that. And then, you know, doing something like this, like I say, for me, without a guitar sat here, I do feel a bit like, oh, what's going to happen now? Like, my hands will be a bit like, oh. But at the end of the day, I'm 33 now, and guitar was kind of my identity until I became a dad, really. So, and I kind of have to be comfortable with myself, you know, without a guitar in my hands. So hosting events has helped with that, because, you know, you're just doing the talking, introducing and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you feel a bit of a... I'm going to say the F word here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my life. What am I doing? I'm sorry, everybody.
Is it past? It's just past 5 o'clock.
I'm going to say it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I've been listening to that book recently, actually, on Audible, but that's sort of art of not giving a fuck. But there is a beauty and a power and a creative way of implementing that, I suppose, if certain either life events happen or you just feel the need to. Is that something that you've noticed in yourself then, when you've been given sort of new opportunities? Not to say you would usually shy away from them, but even more of this sense of, yeah, let's just do it. Let's go. What have I got to lose? I've been through one of the most painful things life can throw at you. I'm ready for it all now. Let's go. Would you relate to any of that?
I would, and I've never thought about it like that, to be honest.
Okay.
So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Mate,
that's
beautiful.
helped greatly. So, you know, like...
You'll throw me
yeah,
on later.
almost kind of... maybe in a messed up way, I kind of feel like I've got this superpower now. Because I've experienced like one of the hardest things I'm ever going to experience.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, I'm still here. I'm still doing things. You know, I'm still able to get through work. And at the minute, I don't feel like there was a point where I was just surviving, and now I feel like I'm starting to thriving again, basically.
Yeah, so, mate, I can really relate to that just on my first proper breakup.
Yeah.
But I went through that. And I think you're on this pendulum, and I probably went too much of one way, where I was like, I literally don't give a fuck, and went all the way over there. And I just used to before care about what people thought of me and if I looked silly, but then I didn't care, so I'd get up on a stage and do a poem that most people would probably laugh at. So at least it pushed me to the stage, and then I'd just not think about how I was presenting myself, I suppose, at times. And then the pendulum swung a little bit back round, so it pushed me on there. Then I acted in whatever way. Then I started to care a bit more. I was like, oh, I'm going to fine-tune this because I enjoy it and I want to perfect it and I want the audience to have a good time. Do you know what I mean? And then you come back round a little bit. So, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, have you been to a counsellor, a therapist, or how are you processing this? Because also... grief's a natural part of our life in some aspect. We're all going to go through it in a way, and it's a real strange emotion to deal with because all the others are like anger has helped us evolutionary, you know, fight away things, and fear led us away from things that we should have been away from. But grief's just an odd emotion for us to process and get through. Somebody on the podcast recently said, yeah, but I feel that's give us meaning, grief. And I'm like, oh, that hit me nicely. That was a beautiful thing to say. It's a way to sort of validate or understand what meaning is. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why we grieve. Cool. Mate, it made me feel, when he said it, I said, I know that's probably close to right, because it made me feel good when he said it.
You get that warm fuzzy feeling. It's like, oh man.
But there's grief that we can comprehend, you know, like I've got a granddad who's kind of on his way out now, but I understand the natural cycle of life and how life is.
Yeah.
And not to say I'm not going to be sad when it happens, but also you don't want people to endure suffering for too long event, and you're like, okay, I'm there with it. But something so out the blue as well, that's a different type of grieving, right? I don't know. I'm not an expert on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not been easy for my family at all. So in July 22, my grandma died. So my mum's mum, she died. And that was after she got, was it stage 4 dementia or something? But she was progressing, it was getting worse. But basically, so I just kind of come to terms with the fact that mentally I'd lost my grandma. And I was just coming to terms with the fact that my grandma isn't going to be at my wedding next year. I didn't think she was going to be dead, but I was like, my grandma, who I know, she's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So like, I just came to terms with that, and then she had a fall and ended up in hospital. And then I got told, like, you should go see her because she's probably not coming out. And then I was due to go see her the following day, and then my dad phoned me at like 6 o'clock in the morning to say that she'd passed away. So we had that going on, and then my granddad passed away December 22, so like 2 weeks before Christmas, and he was just like, he couldn't live without her. He was in and out of hospital and care homes and stuff. Like, he stopped eating and stuff. I mean, they'd been together like, I think they were married over 60 years or something like that, and they were in their 80s, and it's just like, he can't live without his wife. Which a similar thing happened to my dad's parents. Like, his mum died, and then his dad died a year later.
Yeah, I've heard this a
lot.
And
it's kind of like, it's like you say, with the age thing, I understand that. It's horrible. Like, it's absolutely horrible. But like you said, they were at that age.
More acceptance.
Yeah. So, like, you understand that things are coming to an end. And then my dad was just completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
So, and that was just like...
Was it a fall? Just
so basically, he came home. They'd been out on the Wednesday night. They came home, they went to bed and everything. And apparently he got up, sat on the side of the bed just to like have a bit of a coughing fit. And he slipped off the side of the bed, and he was in a lot of pain on his ribs. And I went round the next day to collect some PA gear, and he's like sat in the chair. I'm like, what's up? He's like, I don't know. I'm in a lot of pain. So I was like, I put things into place straight away. Got the open mic covered for that night. And I said, right, we're going to go hospital. And took him to Ripley, and they couldn't examine him because they couldn't get him in a decent enough position, like to get the X-ray and stuff. So they said, you need to go to A&E. So like, I phoned my mum. She finished work. She came down. I drove him up to A&E, and then it was like a night in there waiting for him to get a bed and everything like that. And they said, basically we're going to keep him in overnight, check on him. Looked like broken ribs down one side, but the way it was put across, it was like, he's going to get given some painkillers, he's going to get checked over, and, he's going to be all right. He might be in here for a while, but he'll be all right. And then Friday morning, Mum got a phone call saying he'd been transferred to the ICU because he'd started crashing because he couldn't keep his oxygen levels up. So we went to see him on the Friday, I went to see him. And that was horrible because we walked in and he's got all tubes up his nose, and he was like doped up on like ketamine and morphine and all sorts of painkillers, and he couldn't speak or anything. So that was really horrible to experience. And then over the next 2 days, like, we got called in each day basically because they suddenly said, you need to come in, things are going bad. So the Saturday we had that horrible call that we thought was going to be, this is it. The Saturday he was conscious and coherent by the afternoon, and we all got to have like conversations with him.
Coherent conversations.
Yeah, full on conversations and that. He was fine. And then Sunday he went downhill again, but then by the evening he was looking great. Everything was looking good. The doctors were happy. So I went off to run an open mic, came home, sat up with Molly for a bit. I was about to bed down, and then got a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Mum's like, hospital says we need to come in. And then we got there, and it was about 10-minute wait, and then it was like, can you come and sit in this side room? And then it was basically like, like you see on the films and everything, the doctors are in the room and the families are in the room, and it's basically like, we've done everything we can, we can't do anything more, like, this is it.
Does the doctor explain this to you?
I explained everything. You know, essentially, like, they couldn't regulate his oxygen. He was up to, like, nearly 100% oxygen through a machine. And it's like, well, anyone who gets to that point, they don't have much of a fighting chance anyway, unfortunately. And so they basically said, you know, we've done everything we can. You need to go and...
And it was really a problem with the lungs? Yeah.
So I think... like, don't quote me on this, and my mum will be like, "Oh, you got it all wrong." I don't know, but like, I think because he had quite fragile bones anyway, they'd kind of broken, sort of. I think they'd be like punctured a lung and things like that.
Yeah.
Just things weren't working the way that they should, and it was, they couldn't moderate his pain essentially. They needed to bring his pain down to be able to do something to help, but they couldn't moderate the pain because every time he was breathing in and out, like. Ribs are in, exactly. Like, I can only imagine. And he was on every drug they could give him, and it still wasn't doing it.
Wow.
So, you know, so then it was like, well, we sat with him about 2.5 hours, and then he passed away about 5 o'clock. So, yeah, it's pretty.
Mate,
it's horrible.
Okay.
Like, absolutely horrible.
Are you just literally at in pilot mode at that moment? Are you sort of, what can I do? How do we help? What? Or do you just wait in? I think it was more anything?
Like, so it was me and my mum and my sister. Thankfully, my sister was down for a visit that week anyway. I mean, I can't speak for them, but for me, it was just like, I don't understand this situation right now. But I'd never felt so present in my life.
Oh, I get you.
And I was just in that, like, to this point now, I'll still have dreams and I can relive the situation. I can hear everything that's going on around me. I can see the exact lighting. I can feel him, like. So, but I was that present. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Like, time stood still in that essence.
Wow.
And then, you know, just watching it was just horrible. But in a weird way, like, for me, I'm glad I was there. So we think he knew that we were there. But yeah, it was just kind of like, they'd explained they couldn't do anything, and I did protest, obviously, but I'd already seen what he'd just been through the past couple of days, and it was like, they were fantastic. Kingsmill Hospital, absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I can't fault any of them. Like, they did the job.
Wow.
Like, those people, like, made me, like, proud of the NHS that we've got, you know, because they gave a shit. You know what I mean?
Dude, this is going to be a tender podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Be a very tender podcast.
Why did we agree to this?
No, mate. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for just being so raw and honest and real with it. Like, that, what a great human. Genuinely wicked. Yeah, make me emotional now. Wicked human. So, what with grief, sort of, you know, with 30-year-old blokes, and even discussing it now, my body just sort of shudders. It's like, oh God, we're speaking about that unspoken Voldemort style thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you sort of attribute this fear of it's of the unknown, but our approach into it just a societal thing as well? I don't know what was the conversations around death like in your household or at school or wherever you're getting educated and taught, like.
I don't remember much about school, but with our family, you know, we've had deaths. So I think when I was about maybe 11 or 12, my great grandma died, and she was like 98 or something. And then in 2006, my uncle died, and then my dad's parents died in, I think it was 2012 and 2013. So, you know, and then. So I'd had experience of death and funerals and stuff like that, but my parents were just so open about it, you know. It was like, they'd get the phone call and it'd be like, right, we need to sit down, we need to talk to you. This is what's happened, and this is what's going to happen. Like, I mean, my dad was just, throughout every single one, my dad was there for me, just trying to help guide through the situation, you know, even like, to the point where, you know, we go up to Scotland and, you know, go and say your last goodbye and all that stuff, and, you know, my dad's there like, while, you know, his brother, his mum, and his dad have died, and he's sat there with me, and he's like, you know, it's okay to cry, like, you know, feel your emotions, like everything that you're feeling is normal, and you know, we'll get through this. It's terrible, but we'll get through this.
Process it in your way.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful for my parents, because you know, they didn't sugarcoat anything. And unfortunately, I've had to address this with my children, who are ridiculously young in my eyes at the end of the day, you know. So, you know, their great grandparents have gone, so they've had to deal with that, and then explain that my dad's gone. I had to tell my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old that you know, his granddad's gone. Well, the 4-year-old was 3 at the time, because it was a couple of months before his birthday, and that was just
not the
that's a
conversation
horrible
you're ready
experience.
For.
You know, we just kind of.
And how did they handle it?
They both burst out crying. So.
And do you sort of have procedure in place for them to be held for? Or,
yeah, we've always just said to them, you know, if you are feeling sad about it, then tell us. And they have been very good. You know, they've said, you know, they were quite sad, and you know, going round to my parents' house and it just being my mum, that's been an adjustment. But kids are resilient, because you know, their world's very small at the end of the day, and I have no idea realistically how they're processing it, or how a brain that age would process it. But I'm well aware that later in life there may come a point where something may come up, and it may need to be talked about. Because I don't believe that it's not affected them, because I've seen it affect them, and you know. But I do believe that there is that blessing with the younger age, with the kind of the memory block that we have.
Yeah, I get ya.
You know.
Is there in the sessions, how long you been with a therapist for, and so on?
So I've been in counselling since probably August. It was July, August. I
just think still some people see it as a weakness to go to therapy, which is a very naive, or a shame it's an attitude, but it is an attitude. But yeah, what I'm trying to sieve for here is just what an environment like that might be like. Do you go at your pace, and maybe some things that have really helped you along the way of this journey, and how to cope with it?
I attribute my counselling sessions, like, you know, they're the reason I've not fallen apart.
Because I know past Nick as well. I know you're a dad now, so you had something to fall to as well. You're like, no, I am on this mission. I have got this purpose. I need these little people. So you've got a why. But I'm imagining a Nick without a why, it could have gone.
Well, within like 24 hours of my dad going, I'd already had the thought in my head, like, I'm going to need to go to counselling.
Really? Because
the way I saw it was, I've got 2 roads that I know past me would deal with this. One road is destroy myself.
Yeah, seen it.
And I'm like, you know, I can't do that. I've got a family, I've got a wife, I've got to be there for my family, I've got a business. So I put a roadblock up against that.
That's amazing.
I was like, no, we're not doing that. But then my fear was the other way, was I just carry on and I just internalise and I suppress, and then that would end up leading to that other road. And I was just like, a more
elongated.
Yeah, exactly. More kind of mask everything, crack on, sort everybody else out, throw yourself into work, but then ultimately implode. Yeah. And I was like, I can't do that.
Imagine like this road that's like all windy and long. Yeah, and then you're actually out of more energy when you get back to this place, and it sends you back further in some way.
It would have been like more of a wearing myself down type thing.
I get you.
So.
And have you been there before? Because I've seen you the other way, but have you been to that place where you thought, I need to roadblock that? Because I know I also will just repress stuff. I won't deal with emotions, and I'll just walk on. Were you aware to that?
At the time, yeah. I think in the past I've had moments where I've just been like, just shut things down and carry on. But again, this whole thing, I've just been very present in the experience. And it's like you say, my kids are my why. And I also think like, well, I know what my dad would say if I'd gone down either of those roads, you know, and he wouldn't want that at all. My mum wouldn't want that. So, and it was just like, I need counselling. I know I need counselling. I don't know if it's going to work. So I figured that out within like the first 24 hours. The next day, without any prompt, Molly suggested the idea. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if there was ever another sign to prove that I've married the right woman, like this is it. So she found, I didn't ask her to, but she found someone for me because I was spending a lot of time with Mom, you know, getting involved in all that. And I was like, I will look for somebody. And she didn't say, well, I'm going to do it for you. She just kind of did it. Yeah. So I found a therapist. She
probably knew you had a lot of stuff on, a lot of baggage to deal with.
She's been there through the whole thing, man.
Yeah, man.
You know, all in a, you know, just before we got married and within our first year of marriage, whilst also giving me a third child. So that woman, I don't know what I've done to deserve her, which is amazing.
You've done a lot, man. You deserve good things. You're a good human.
Well, thank you, man.
You are.
So yeah, it was. I found counselling then, and I've been there pretty much every Monday morning, bar like a few, and.
Yeah, I suppose the way we're trying to frame this podcast is, the real actuality of what life can throw at you. And then knowing we're not experts in anything, just experts in the field of life and just going through it, but giving maybe ideas, techniques, tools, things that people who going through this may use and may help. But I'm guessing everybody's so vehemently different that they're all going to find your way and your best way. That's the road to life in it. It's sort of self-discovery. But would you say something then that really helped you in that point was finding a why? It was really like finding, roadblock destruction by putting a why in front of it. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's a really good piece of advice.
Because at the end of the day, dude, I couldn't...
Right.
Like, are we going to... like, that's it, drop it, dude. But I can't destroy myself. You know, I've had moments, like, when it was fresh and, you know, I've seen myself, I've kind of looked at myself. I've had to check myself a couple of times within the first month and, you know, just after the funeral and that. And I was like, there were moments where I could just go. You know, I could just let it all go. I'm like, I can't do that, you know, and I don't want to. I think that's the thing. Deep down, I don't want to. I'm also aware that in the past, you know, pre-kids and everything, when I've made decisions like that, who's it benefited? It's not benefited anyone. It's just screwed my head up and then put some strain on relationships with people that I've had, you know, and like.
And where do you think that little voice comes from? That one that's trying to sabotage it when it's in pain?
It's going to sound really weird, but, you know, I'm not kind of going into a religious aspect in my life, but, you know, I'm starting to, if you look at it black and white, it's kind of like God and the devil, you know. I'm not saying...
Them two things on your shoulders.
Yeah, it's the two things that you see in a cartoon. Yeah. You've got the little angel and the little devil.
Yeah, I get you.
And you kind of realise that your subconscious or whatever it is that's saying these things, I'm starting to realise now that all these avenues are like, they're the easy way out. Yeah. Because I've been like trying to hit my life hard since 25. And when I decided I was going self-employed, I was like, there's no turning back. Like, I've got to keep going with this. And it's like, destroying myself would have been the easy option. Yeah. But it would have been the easy option for me. Not for anyone else around me.
Goes through a real...
Yeah.
turbulent time seeing it unfold. Yeah, I'm with you.
So, like I say, I mean, I've had, you know, there's been a couple of nights, you know, I've drank a bit too much and stuff. But I'm not doing that on a regular basis. You know, I can't be going out and getting KO'd on anything because
and do you feel that all surfaces? Do you know when you get a bit too drunk or whatever, or have a bit too much?
Yeah. Yeah,
is that where maybe the worst elements of you come through?
Yeah, I think it's more because,
I don't know if the right word was worse.
Well, the substances, they lower the drawbridge, don't they? Yeah. So, you know, raw emotion kind of comes out. So it's a lot easier to kind of...
But also rationality.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's like counselling for me, it's given me a space to be with a party who only knows what I tell her, and I can be as raw and emotional as I want, but the rational side of me is still there, which is great. And, you know, like it's like bouncing back off, you know, the rational side, talking to my counsellor. It is.
It's awesome.
Because it's just like, I'll say something, and then it's like, well, you know, do you think it's because of this, or can it be this way, or whatever? So.
And is that a sort of safe environment where you can just be? And
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've been through every possible emotion in that room together.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much, man. Pretty much.
Is it important to find the right counsellor for that then?
I want to say yes, but I've only tried this one counsellor, and it's working for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the connection is there. I don't know. I think that's probably driven just because of like her approach on stuff and all that kind of just, I don't know. Like, it's just that little pocket of time for me on a Monday, that's all set in place. But I think it's also driven by the fact that I really want to do this. Like, I really want to make sure I'm okay. Like, I want to be there for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I can't do that if I don't look after myself. So, like, I've not tried multiple counsellors, so I don't feel like I can honestly answer that.
Yeah,
but for me, you know, it's felt right. So,
what else on this journey? Like, so well, let's look at a pie chart.
Okay,
together.
yeah.
Look, you got this pie chart.
You're gonna make me hungry. It's tea time, man.
Counselling has been, you just said, like one of the most fundamental parts of this journey that's sort of kept you on path.
Yeah.
Have you had other parts? And how big on that pie chart is counselling to this?
If I'm looking at it from a personal perspective,
yeah,
you know, it's taken up, I'd say, nearly half of it.
What other personal elements have you added in yourself to get on the journey of, you know, being strong throughout this journey?
So, like, tools and techniques
can be
and
said
things.
a lot.
Like, yeah, it is, isn't it? Like, so, but I think the main thing I've really got addicted to is cocaine. No, I'm joking. Like, it's
once in a while.
Journaling and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really been a massive help, because I was kind of at a point where my relationship with alcohol is not terrible, but it definitely was habitual, and it was more of a, you know, we kind of got to the bottom of that, and basically it was like I was having a beer or two or three or four, depending on what mood I was in, at the end of the night, and we figured out I'm just doing that to quiet my mind, just to make it short, a bit of beer and a bit of telly, and that's what it was becoming. And that was the point where I was like, I could see the start of me imploding, like if I stuck down that route. So journaling, like, I'm trying to do it on a daily basis, but I do like journaling at the end of the day. Like, the last thing to do before kind of bed, just throw everything out my brain.
And is it literally the good, the bad, and the ugly on the
page?
Just
I like, a lot of it's just free writing. You know, I read back on it from time to time. There's a lot of upset through it.
How long will you go for when you're journaling?
I just go till I stop.
Really?
Yeah, I don't time it. I just basically say, right, let's just, you know, get it out. Some pages, there's like half a page or something, or I think the first time I did it was about 3 or 4 pages, but that really felt like I was just like talking to my dad and everything.
Real cathartic.
So, yeah, and I've had like other negative things happen in my life since then, and I've just kind of put them down, and that's where I've got that you know, anger out essentially about the situation. Yeah. So then it's kind of felt like it's off me. You know, it's out of me. It's just there, and then I can read it back, and it's like, oh, it's not really real anymore, is it? Because it's just on paper. So
interesting. That's wicked.
It's definitely the biggest thing that's helped. And then baseline, diet, try to exercise, stuff like that.
Did that go out the window a little bit? I'm guessing that's the last thing you're thinking of. So many ups and
downs with diet and exercise over the past sort of year, just because of my situation. Yeah. You know, I'm not, in some ways it's like, it's no excuse, but I mean, like I said, my world got destroyed. Yeah. Everything got thrown off. You know, I took time off work and everything, because I was like, I don't know, how the hell am I supposed to exist right now? My dad's just died. Like, who am I anymore, basically?
And there's a real father-son bond, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it was real close, as I remember it. I mean, on our first podcast we did together, we were talking about dads and stuff. Yeah,
I can't... I always say I owe my dad everything, and I do. Yeah. I literally do. Like, I wouldn't be doing this without his encouragement and support. So... And again, I think that's been
You're losing a lot of people in one there, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a best friend, a dad, a mentor, a jamming partner, a drinking partner.
Yeah.
Like, I was very lucky with the relationship with my dad.
Social aspect,
So,
the creative aspect.
Yeah.
He shared everything with you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it feels a lot to handle, a lot to work with. Like this, for me, I was fascinated on doing this podcast because I knew the sheer gravitas of this person to you. I would the conversation around grief and death, anyway, is one that I've always shied away from, and I've been very confused about. And I had friends die in my life, and my grandma died, a few people, but it's one my brain switched off at or just froze up at. And then knowing your dad's relationship to you, to hear, because me again, we're doing social media here, but looking from afar too.
Yeah.
You have kept it together. Like I know we don't see each other as much as we'd like to, and much as we did before, but I look from far and I go, mate, you're doing really fucking well.
Thank you.
Awesome. And that's why I was fascinated for this conversation, because when I'm quite an empath, so when I think of it and I feel it, I'm like, it must be a lot. That's weighty. So I wanted to hear how you've been coping with it and what you've been finding to deal with it. So yeah, let's keep venturing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think it's just been.
Is this helpful at all? Do you know, just having a space to
this
talk
is.
about it?
I was a little bit nervous about it this morning, but I'm kind of like, I don't want it to seem like, I'm exploiting my dad's death for like YouTube views, anything stupid like that. But it's just like,
it's a real part of life.
Not in like, I feel like I do, and I don't feel like this could help people. Like for me, what the point I'd like to get across today is like, from my experience, counselling helps.
Yeah,
and I don't think it should be so taboo or seen as a weakness or anything. I'd highly recommend anybody go do it for whatever reason you need to.
And why don't you think it would help this episode? What?
Well, just in the sense of, I don't believe everyone should listen to me.
No,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a humble motherfucker. You're humble. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of young people that watch this podcast, and I feel good now, sickeningly. Yeah. But there's an episode I can sign people to, because particularly for these young people, they'll come to a session, and I see they're completely off, and it's often related to something like a loss in some regard or something. So yeah, I want this to keep unfolding, and knowing that I've actually said to people, well, what about counselling? What about this? And they literally laugh at it, or they'll just say, exactly. Oh, mate, no, I'm not doing that. That's whatever. Yeah. And you think, oh, it's a shame. Where's that connotation come from? Where's that stigma?
I'd love to know, to be honest, because to me,
just to be able to sit and talk with somebody unapologetically about where you're at.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's a beautiful thing.
Because I can talk to my mum and like Molly as much as possible, but the issue there is they've experienced the same thing in their own way. So for counselling, I can literally just completely say exactly what I want to say at the time and what is on my mind. And I don't have to worry about upsetting them or worrying about like, are they going to feel they need to say something? Like we have conversations, obviously. Yeah. So now I'm at a point where I can have a conversation with my mum about the scenario and stuff, and I feel like we can just talk and we can just connect. But because I've been able to go away and just have this own personal space that's mine and just be like, blah, 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 or like bawl my eyes out or something, so I can kind of not come to terms with it, but I can begin to process things in a way, in a small way. So
what else have they put in that room for you to not just make it a safe space, but what epiphanies or what have you extracted from going to counselling?
I've learned, I think I'm just learning a lot more about myself.
Yeah.
I'm realising, that I realise that I've done the right thing in life, but it's helping me work out when I try things, what works and what doesn't. So like the journaling helps because it helps me mentally. If I put the effort in and get on the exercise and the diet, physically I feel better. And it's stupid, and lots of people have told me that. I've worked with Zach and stuff. He's been like, yeah, it helps, and like it does help.
Yeah.
But like realizing it's through having to deal with the death of my dad, it is kind of making it stick a little bit easier. Do you know what I mean?
That makes total sense.
It helps become more of a motivating factor.
Yeah.
I think. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of learning about me, which is cool. So.
Sounds like you've got a good counsellor.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I have friends that are counsellors, and they're good counsellors, I would say.
Yeah.
But they did say, you know, the industry, you can qualify on Groupon or something now in some aspects.
Yeah.
Of being an online counsellor, or it can be a one-day course or whatever, and it's getting a bit more convoluted at times. Mm-hmm. So I would potentially say, you know, I feel anybody that feels they've got the answer, or they're trying to put you down this model of this is what you do, that's some red flags for me. But the counsellor that's putting you on the path of your discovery and self-discovery and learning about what is it for you, that sounds like a real healthy and a decent approach to it.
Yeah, it does. Like, it seems to be working better for me because, like, I got told about, like, there's an NHS setup or something, but you get, like, 8 sessions or 6 sessions or something like that. But that's all you get.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I've been doing this since late July, early August, you know, and I'm doing this. I'm, like, fortnightly now, but I'm not going to stop. As long as I can keep affording to go,
amazing,
I'm going to keep going because I know it's helping. How can I have done this much work in 6 to 8 sessions?
Yeah.
I don't see how that can help.
And
so
potentially can be dangerous. You know, you start digging into somebody's life or where they're at, and then it's like,
oh, drop you, bye.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very helpful and healthy. And again, I think with counselling for me, I went through it for a while, and I think you need to explore it as much as you can, because I did stick with somebody for about 4 or 5 sessions, and they were the other way, what I was describing before as do this or do, and it just didn't feel helpful to me. It didn't feel like me. And then I put a bad name on counselling for a long time. I was like, oh, it doesn't work, it's this, it's or another thing they were trying to do to me was put me on pills, and I just really didn't want to go down that route of being attached to whatever it was. And I do think that can be helpful for some people, but again, I just felt something innately in my gut that I was like, I don't need them now, I don't want it, I'm sure I can do this without, I just don't know what yet. So I wanted to go with that answer with them, but then that put me off counselling for a very long time. So
it's one bad experience, isn't
it?
Like,
I'd say explore it and don't be put off at your first hurdle.
And I think you do have to be willing to do the work. And, you know, like you just said about the pills thing, like if you felt internally that was a no-go, you've done the right thing because you've listened to your soul at that point. It's like, I know that's not going to help me because I won't let it help me, essentially. So,
and another thing I was reflecting on was sort of don't let it deter you, because I suppose people need an answer, don't they? And they want to go somewhere where they're like, you've got the answer, you can resolve all this, and actually it is that inward work and it's bloody painful. So for me, a good counsellor, I don't know if this is a good counsellor, but for me, a good counsellor just helps guide you. And they're your sort of the Yoda. The Yoda in the situation.
I get that.
And they've got to just stand from afar and keep asking the right questions and helping guide you through it. But you're the one that's actually got to go through it. So if they get to phase 1 and they're like, they didn't tell me the answer, I suppose that could be a bit off-putting too, couldn't it? So is that sort of acceptance, unfortunately, you're going to have to do the work here. Was that an acceptance that you had to go through? Yeah,
but again, I think I got to that conclusion before I went.
You have a decent age for it as well, right?
Well, I think it's, I think the age thing contributes to it. You know, if it had been pre-kids and let's say it had been like my first family death. Well,
that's very.
You know, I don't know where I'd be right now at the end of the day, because you'd just be like, I don't know how to deal with this.
Just you've had a few more life experiences to go through, and some of them were deaths, so it has helped. And like you said, you've had a great mum and dad to help you talk about this a bit more honestly and openly. Family, you know, do you have like a time where you can just speak of it with Molly and your mum or whatever, but I'm guessing you don't want to overload it? or talk too much? I don't know. But do you feel let's have a designated space to talk about this, but also let's try and add in niceties or things where we're going to have a safe space to not talk about it? Or is that too contrived then?
So I think like
my head is
good one. That is wow, man.
My head is
spinning a web.
I really don't know the answers to these, so I just want your sort of takes.
So I think I'm at a point now where if I'm having a bad time, you know, I try and make a point of telling Molly like pretty quickly, and I know that if I want to talk to her about anything, I can do. There's no issues there. With my mum, we'll talk when we can, but I'm at a point with my mum now where it's like, I just want to be someone for her to talk to, essentially, you know. She's always, my parents are like, they're always looking after the kids, making sure the kids are okay, and it's like, well, it's my turn to look after you. So
that's a stoic position to put yourself in. It's just
like, whoo! Yeah. But again, with my mum, like, if she starts talking, I'm going to listen no matter what. Like, everything's got to stop at that point because, she's lost something as well. So
that's a great point of the conversation too. The people helping and the people as friends and as family. You've seen me. I don't know what to do with this situation.
Yeah, but you're being honest about it, man.
Yeah.
Like,
what would you say from those people listening to this and say they've got somebody that's grieving at the minute and they're like, I do just want to help, but I don't want to go and impose. I don't want to say the wrong thing. If I eggshell, will it be weird? Do you know what I mean? Like, have you got any advice for those people?
From the people who've been there for me, cause my circle's quite small anyway, and it's got a lot smaller since my dad went. But that's just because I've been focused on my immediate family. It's not because I've deliberately stopped talking to people. But the ones that reached out to me, like who were super close to me, who went out of their way just to message me, it would just be like, look, essentially it was just like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Checking in, how you doing?
Yeah.
I'm here for you. There was no imposing, let's go out, let's do this. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It was always like, if you want to talk, I'm here.
That's lovely advice.
And it was like, if people messaged me and stuff, like, especially when it was all fresh and raw, and people sent me stuff on Facebook and that, I'd put like the heart reaction because I couldn't reply.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't. And one of them spoke to me about it. It's like, are you putting that just so that we know that you've seen it? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, dude, because you're messaging me this stuff and I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, I love the fact that you are taking time out of your day to show that you're thinking about me, because you care for me and you care for my dad. But at that moment in time, I'm looking at my screen and I'm like, I've literally got no words for this. So I would just say, just let them know that you're there. Don't push it. And if they don't speak to you for a while, just remind yourself what they've just gone through. Some people can get on like a bit of an ego trip about it. Like, if friends don't speak to each other for a while, regardless of what the situation is, like you've had that with people, I'm sure. Yeah. I've had it with people. But it's just reminding yourself that everyone's on their own separate little journey.
The street song about that.
Some people I haven't spoke to in like months, and there's been a situation where somebody's got a bit upset about that. But it's also like, well, my dad's just died.
Yeah,
I'm trying to look after my wife, my kids, my mom. I'm
man.
trying to get
Why you
a bit
talking
like
to me?
At the end of the day, like there was this thing that I saw the other day. I was speaking to a barmaid at the fish pond about it last night, and it was something on social media, and it was talking about like people's journeys, and it was like, put yourself in your car. Your car's your little bubble. You do what you want in your car. Now, me in my car, like, I'm listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts. I talk to myself. Like, you drive past me, I will talk to myself because I have to verbalize the thoughts in my head to get things out there. And then somebody else is going to drive past in their car. Now, they could be listening to music. They could be talking to themselves. They could be on their way to a job interview. They could have asked someone who's just died.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, they're in their own little bubble. And then it's like, oh, hang on. We're all literally in our own little bubble doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And we'll never understand what anyone else is truly going through. Even if you've been through that experience, like it's still different. So just going back to like being there for people, just say to them, look, I'm there if you need me. And when they're ready to let that bubble expand and get you back in it, they will do.
That's
because they know you're safe. So
have you seen that video that's been circulating? It's this guy, he's doing an interview and he's with this fairly nerdy looking guy, but the nerdy guy is a genius. He's like this philosophical, and the guy went, well, he just walked in front of our shot. He's
yes.
Never attribute malice to what can be just incompetence. Yeah. And then he goes on this whole tirade about everyone's just going about their lives, doing their thing. And oh, mate, when I watched that, I thought, he needs to be president.
Literally solved everything for everyone. It's like, what?
Goes, are you AI? No. Are you real? I try to be. Yes. Mate, that is the greatest response. I try to be. And he was real. Mate, that's lovely. And I do like what you said also about not being invasive necessarily. Like, yo, dude, and sort of over the top. Let's go out. We'll do this. We'll whatever. But just, I'm here. What do you need? Where you at? And not putting it on to you necessarily, but just letting them know you're there. Yeah. That's lovely.
You see, I've had like, I've gone round for chats with friends. I've met up for a beer. You know, I've hung out at somebody's house. But I've never felt pressured. But then if I started talking about stuff, they always just let me talk, which was great. You know, I think that's the other thing as well. Like, if somebody is going to open up to you, try and just, you know, keep your mouth shut. Yeah. Because it's that cliche thing. You're not always looking for somebody to give you an answer. You just want someone to listen to you.
Oh man, I must admit, because mate, the work we do, you work. And working with lots and lots of young people, and you just sit and you're sort of doing workshops, and then somebody is going through that experience and you're giving them a space, but then you're listening to somebody solve it all for them in that moment, and they're just being talked at, and I've had to literally like stop them, like, yo, that person's not ready for that yet. But I see the intentions there and you're being really pure with it, but let's just give them a bit of a minute and time. It might be nice for that person to be like, oh, they do want to help, but I've seen it get very suffocating too. Yeah. So, yeah, a young person listening to this, give space. Let them breathe.
Yeah. And especially if it's an older person talking to a younger person, like, try and remember that you didn't have any answers at one point.
That's good. Yeah, that's true.
Because that's the other thing.
Yeah. So. That's very true. We're figuring it all out, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. There may be an answer today. I'm not sure. But
oh, that's another South Park saying, like, there's never one answer for all the answers or something. It was on the end of an episode I listened to yesterday. But again, it's just saying explore it all, because life's very nuanced and you can always find another answer. There's always another way.
Yeah, man. And I think that that directly applies into the work that we do, like in the creative field. Like, there's no right or wrong way to go about art in whichever form it's in. So
that was something I wanted to get onto a little bit, was say those things that you found really beautiful to share with your dad. Have you had to reframe it in a certain sense to enjoy it again? You know, I know Nick McCann was never going to stop guitaring, because that is who I see you as. But yeah, I mean, I'm going for a breakup perspective here, but there was literal films that I used to absolutely love to the core, and songs that I couldn't listen to for a long time just because I associated it with them. Even rooms I wouldn't go in the house that I wouldn't be in a certain way. So have you had to tackle that or deal with that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's taken a long time to be able to step into my dad's little office that he had. It took a long time to do that. Going around to the house, it's horrible walking in. Even nowadays, I go home on a Tuesday and I hate leaving my mum. Like, I see my mum and it's like, I won't see you for another week or till the weekend. It's like, oh, shit, that's horrible. Guitar, man. I don't think I played guitar for about, I don't know. I didn't play guitar.
Really?
For a while. Like, Not when I say a while, I mean like 2 or 3 days,
Mate.
Which is mental. But I did have a gig that weekend.
Yeah.
My dad died on the Monday, and I had a gig at his local in Ripley on the Saturday.
Right.
And I didn't touch guitar till probably the Friday, if I'm honest.
Did you do the gig?
Yeah, I did the gig.
Yeah. Do you feel?
No, I played a little bit of guitar on the Thursday. Tell a lie, sorry. But yeah, I did the gig.
Well, retrospectively, like, was that a wise choice? I mean, there probably is no answer for this, but was it a good? Come on.
I don't regret it.
Yeah.
And it was a very humbling experience. Like I say, it was my mum and dad's local.
Yeah.
So a bunch of their friends turned out. A bunch of mates who I grew up with in Ripley turned out.
Yeah.
Like they literally came out because I was like, look, I'm playing at Pear Tree, if you're around. And loads of people came out I hadn't spoke to in years.
Mate, that's
literally
stunning.
They just came out, and it was a hard gig. It was a very hard gig because the band that I'm with at the minute, I was so excited for that night because I wanted my dad to see the band, because the sort of stuff we do, like right up his street. Really? Literally, we do songs that he showed me, and I was so excited for him to be at that gig because I knew he would have loved it. And my mum told me that he would have loved it, and then he never got to. So yeah, it was a very, very challenging experience. I had a kind of spiritual experience, I guess. It came towards the end of the set, and I was playing away, and I was getting into it, and I was enjoying it, and I was like, this is good. It was another thing that made me become present again, because I was able to become me on stage, which I'm very good at, getting into that persona. And then I looked up, I think it was about 2 songs towards the end, I just looked out into the crowd, as I had been doing, and he was there.
Fuck off.
No, he was there. He was stood there. He was like that.
Bro.
Smile on his face.
How's this only just got into a podcast?
Was like, I've had so many experiences like that. Honestly, I looked up and I saw him, and I kept looking there, and he was there. And then I looked down.
I shouldn't swear as much on this podcast.
No, I know. Like, you're definitely putting like the 18 restriction on this.
It's all right. They can hear an odd one or two, but that's a moment that it required a swear word. Wow. Okay. Did that not trip you out?
Yeah, it tripped me out.
Yeah.
Of course it tripped me out, man.
To what degree was he, like, how real did it...
It was there.
Mate.
It was as real as you are now. Like, he was there, But, do you know what? They didn't drop a note. So,
mate, that's right, okay.
But it was like a detached thing, in my head. I was like, I'm looking at my dad, but I'm also playing guitar. So,
I mean,
it was like,
what on earth, sort of, because I suppose my brain often, it loves the mystical, and then it really wants to work stuff out or rationalize stuff and go, well, this was what that was. All the experiences I've been through, whether it be use of a substance or whatever it is, it's gone, okay, that's amazing. That's incredible that you can get there. But what is that? Is it just a chemical thing? Or maybe the beauty of life is the fact we don't have to put answers on things.
Yeah.
You are allowed to just go, it was magic.
Yeah, but, it literally is. But, I mean, to me, it's...
what's your kind of understanding to what that was?
Well, it's definitely exposed me more to, like, the spiritual realm side of things, and I've done a lot more. I've been getting into meditation, and, I've been looking at, like, chakra meditation, third eye type stuff, reading up on stuff like that, because I'm like, it all makes way more sense that, there's different planes and stuff. And I spoke to a friend who's quite into it. It's
like before you hear the words, and then you go through something, and then you feel it, and you go, this is like, it.
Oh, hello.
This is the substance.
Okay, I can identify this now.
I'm with you.
But I spoke to a friend who's like heavily into this stuff, and I was like, I'm having all these spiritual experiences where my dad's here at different points in time. And what she said to me was, the way that she sees it is they're on the other side, and they're just trying to let you know that they're okay.
Wow.
And I found a lot of peace in that. So,
did you expect to go through anything like this, sort of? And
I mean, I've had things like that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just because of the connection that me and my dad have.
Are they all as vivid as one another. They've all been...
So many things are vivid. Like, you know, I'll see him every now and again, or like one common thing I have is like coming home after an open mic or something on my own in the car, and then he's in the passenger seat.
Wow.
Like, I have stuff like that. So
I'm just literally picture. Is it like a bit shaded? Is it as in ghostly?
No, it's almost
like a podcast with me and you now.
So in the car, it's more like his presence is there.
I get you.
You know,
that.
But
Yeah.
if I look over, I can't see him.
I get you.
But if I'm driving, I can see him.
I get.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I do.
He's just sat there.
Yeah.
You know, well, I do a lot of my talking to him in the car as well, because that's a lot of the time when I'm alone and just
But
focused.
then at the gig, it was like, oh no, hey up.
Yeah, literally.
Wow.
Like,
What?
It's been a crazy journey.
That's fascinating. And again, do you feel peaceful in that moment? Do you feel excited, happy? Like, can you articulate even what that emotion is, or is that too outside our clumsy words?
I think so. Yeah, I found a lot more peace after speaking to my mate and seeing that angle of it.
Yeah.
But at the gig, you know, I did feel myself trying not to freak out.
Of course.
You know, because I was like, I'm doing a job right now. Like, what are you doing, man? Stop distracting me, Dad. But yeah, it's
meet me at home. We'll have a chat about
something
this.
like that. So, but it's just very.
Wow.
Every time I do feel his presence, I do feel, you know, there's sadness there, obviously, but it's just a reminder that he's not gone.
It's just really fascinating, because I've had so many friends who have lost, particularly like parents, that have been through this situation and been through what you're just describing there as well. Like, I could see them. So it's wild. Yeah, it's kind of, it's giving me shivers. Yeah, a friend, his dad used to play downstairs with the dogs, and he'd put 2 pillows between him and play with the dogs, and they'd roll on each side, and then they went downstairs and the 2 pillows were there, but like everyone, they know for a fact nobody had been in.
Yeah, that
had happened, and they just felt this presence of their dad in this moment, and it was like it gets me emotional, man.
Yeah,
That's such an emotional topic, but yeah, it was like, I'm here. Fucking hell, man. It wasn't supposed to be me going to there. Like, me getting it. Oh yeah, just beautiful. Yeah, so it does sort of give this feeling of presence. They're there. Yeah. They just want you to know, it's all right, man, I'm here. Wow. Oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, it'll
never get easy though, this whole topic of death though, will it?
No, but I think I'm coming to terms with that. I think it's just, if I've learned anything, it sounds cliche again, but you know, this is just further proof that life's unpredictable. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen. You know?
I like that sort of, the more you know, the less you understand.
Yeah.
It really is. The more experiences that get thrown on top of you, the more you find out about life, the way you see people act, and you go, what the hell is that? You just get to this point of, it really does feel relieving after a while, because you're like, I don't need to understand it all. It just is. Life, there's a beautiful isness in life, and you kind of just need to make it beautiful and precious. And that's what we said at the start of the podcast. You know, grief, it kind of really unravels meaning and just shows you how beautiful you had it. Yeah, and what life can be.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it does make me very grateful. So.
Yeah, man. Oh, honestly, that's... I didn't expect you to talk about that, though. That was...
Oh, bless you. I didn't know what I was going to talk about.
Must be where ghosts come from, though, as well.
Yeah.
Surely.
You know, like, just... something's there all the time, I think. So, that's the weird thing.
Yeah. I've had experiences before of seeing things, but again, like I said about my brain, it kind of just rationalizes it really quickly. It's like, oh, it was light into this and that, and then you go, oh, it was all right. But for you to just be looking over and seeing it, you go, wow, that's that.
Yeah, and I can't explain it, and I don't want to explain it, and I don't expect anyone to understand it. You know, I could tell that story to somebody, and they could be like, well, that's never happened because ghosts don't exist, mate, and all that nonsense. But you know, what I felt was real, and what I saw was real. So
I love it. Dude, is there anything else within this podcast you feel would be beneficial for somebody who's going through loss, going through grief, or watching somebody struggle and maybe find really unhealthy ways of processing their loss, who want to reach out and help? I suppose there's two brands there, but is there anything else within it that you feel has really benefited you and you'd like to impart?
Oh my God, I'm trying to think of things now. Creativity and getting artistic.
Yeah, man.
So, again, they're a great outlet for stuff. Now, I haven't got artistic for my own personal gain or use. What I've had, me and my dad were meant to record his album because he's got like original songs that needed to be recorded. So that was our mission, and we can't do that now. So we did a memorial gig for him in September, and I had to basically bring his songs to life without him. That creative process itself was a massive, massive help. Now, I think for me, because it was my dad's songs, it felt very much like, I'm getting, my dad's working through me at this point. But I remember it being really hard and really challenging from an emotional point of view. But I feel it's benefited me greatly as an artist because it's helped me find something that was cathartic. But it's also given me something to show for it at the end. So, I would say try and do something creative.
Nice. So that's sort of a feeling of sealing in a way, like you've sort of
in a
got
way,
something
yeah,
to show for.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say, but it's not like closing the lid on it. It's it's I think it's more pulling an incredible positive out of a negative situation.
That's a much better way of explaining it. Yeah.
Not
sealing it, like shut that off.
No, like he's ruined it now. Start again. Camera's gone.
Pop yourself back over there. But
I would say a creative
out something
thing.
Beautiful from it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because again, it's a good way to process emotions. Whether you write something or play something or paint something. I would highly encourage young people especially to get into something creative, just as a way of venting out emotions of any form. Yeah. So, and
then, again, don't block yourself off because you're like, I'm no good at that. I'm no good at that.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's expression.
Again, there's no rule in art.
Yeah,
just do something, man.
Just go. Same with like your free write.
Yeah.
It's not punctuation, spelling, grammar day.
Yeah.
It's a piece of you on a piece of paper as fast as you can. Okay, so I'm just gonna conclude some stuff that you've said that I found really poignant and add to it. But creativity, so finding a way to express it, journaling.
Yeah.
Just having a place where it's sort of unapologetic, you can just talk and there's no sort of attached emotions to it from other people.
Yeah.
So that's counselling, finding a good space for that. Oh, we spoke about so much. What else we got?
I would definitely say, sort your baseline out, like
your
diet and your exercise and stuff like.
And did you say that did fall off a cliff?
Yeah. It falls. It goes in peaks and valleys and stuff, all the time. But I am aware that when I'm on it, how better I do.
Optimal, better decisions, can't you?
Yeah.
You're coming from your most optimum state, so you sort of at least get to be baseline of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I remember the weed days or whatever, and then just filling myself with junk.
Yeah.
And literally baseline, you're starting from below zero, and then having to face reality and put a foot forward's often difficult.
And
so
you're trying to work out why you don't want to go outside or you can't deal with people at the moment. Or you're just angry at stuff, and it's like nothing's being looked after at the end of the day.
It's possibly like for some people maybe the best place to start, just because it's movement. It's something you can really quickly go and do. Even being out for a walk. Serotonin.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be doing like workouts in the gym or anything. Like, just do something, move, be active. Making
good choices with nutrition and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm guessing often for some people that don't want to confront the mind and go straight into that environment, just dealing with that will get you to that baseline level where you can confront that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a good place to start if you're really struggling.
And again, it's all, you don't need a degree to go out for a walk. It don't cost you anything to go for a walk and get your body moving. So
I suppose, and then just everyone's going to process it at different paces, but some red flags to spot are where, you know, you're completely trying to be oblivious to it all and you're not processing at all. If you're going into pilot mode,
yeah,
you went to a gig through intention. You were like, no, this is the right thing to do and I'm doing it for this. But if, say, you've got loads of gigs lined up and it's like, well, I'm just going to do it and it'll busy my mind and get out of it, maybe just have a reflection on that, maybe.
Yeah, I think...
I don't know how, because you can't tell people how to process stuff, can you?
No, and the time scale you can't chart either at the end of the day. You don't know how long it's going to take. I think from my point of view, with the work aspect, like gigging and teaching and stuff, it's like throw yourself into it, but like it's like walking a tightrope. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like, you can keep walking through it, but you know you could fall off at any point, and by that I mean you could completely let yourself be swamped by your work and everything, and that can overtake, and that in turn leads to suppression of stuff. Yeah. So you know, it's all, again, it's all about inner work and trying to find some sort of balance. But I think, you know, definitely through counselling, I've learned to identify myself more. I'm not saying what I say is going to work for everybody, but trying to understand, like, say if you've gone through a bad patch in your life, work out what was your daily routine, what were your habits and stuff. You know, if you were down and depressed after a breakup, you know, what were you doing? Like on a daily basis, were you sleeping in till like 2 o'clock? Were you wake and bake, going out drinking, having a party, or are you like out exercising, walking the dog, doing things like that? And you know which lasted longer? Yeah, you know?
I was going to say a quick equation for some people who may go, well, I can't afford counselling. You could potentially go, well, some things that are definitely not going to help with this matter are substance and alcohol. Yeah. If you take them away, you've probably got the money to fund that other thing. Yeah,
that is very true. So that's the other thing. I can't go off the rails because I'm putting all this money elsewhere. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? So
you force yourself, you coerce yourself into healing. Yeah, God
I'm
damn
investing. That's what I'm doing.
What better vessel to invest in?
I think it's just trying to be honest with yourself at the same time. So, because I think deep down, no matter what age you are, your body knows what it wants and your mind knows what it wants. You've always got a gut feeling about something. Like going back to what you said about your counselling, it's like, I don't want to go on the pills that they want to put me on. Yeah. Like, something internally always tells you what you're doing is right or wrong. Yeah. For the greater good of your situation. Use that as a good
navigation system.
You know, and for the young people, it's like, it's that whole don't give in to peer pressure type stuff. You know, if you want to put it in like a typical situation, if all your friends are pressurizing you to smoke and you don't want to, like, you know, be brave and say you don't want to and stand up for yourself because you'll feel better for it in the end.
And with somebody like me who's bloody stubborn.
Yeah, that's the other thing, isn't it? Like, you know, I'm quite good at being stubborn as well.
And I was just thinking, again, this is such a tender topic that I would go through a process and just feel, you know, if down the line in a month's time or 5 months' time, I'm still getting emotional though, it would maybe, I'd be stubborn towards it. I'd be like, there's a supposed to, there isn't. But in my warped little head, maybe, that I put these, I'm supposed to be here at this time, I'm supposed to be here. What do you have for those mindsets? Any thoughts or ideas?
The penny drop for me in counselling was realising that your emotions, picture them like you're at the beach and watching the tide come in and out. Yeah. Right, because we've all done it. Like, I assume most people have done it. You stand at the beach, you know, feet in the water, right, it comes in and it goes out. over the course of the day, that tide comes in, it covers the whole beach, and that can be like the emotion getting, whoa.
Yeah.
But eventually, it's going to go back. The tide's going to go back out.
That's lovely.
There's going to be a lot more beach there exposed.
That's a good imagery.
So, you know, for me, it's like just realizing that emotions can come, and let yourself experience them. Like, try not to shut them out, because you need to experience them from, you know, an emotional point and a physical point, I feel. But they will pass if you let them come up and come down.
And is sort of the method of just feeling them, because I suppose what we do with emotions then is, here's anger, and I feel angry because they weren't on it and they didn't do this, and then you go on a massive sort of story, if you will, to search on this anger. But it's like, no, it was a natural emotion. If you just allowed it to come in as it does, and not follow that journey in your head with where it's gone, it would eventually go. But you've got sort of too caught up in the wave of that story. So
somebody could get angry at somebody for, I don't know, the way they've acted or something that they've done, because it's really upset this person.
Yeah.
Like, if you get caught in that narrative,
yeah,
like, that can then quite easily consume you.
Well, you could,
if
like,
you're not careful.
I know you said this wasn't the case, but say with your dad, if you felt they were negligent towards your dad, I know you said they weren't, but if somebody did feel that,
oh yeah, I could quite easily be like, what is going on? And then that could have been a blame game.
Yeah,
I could have compensated my own emotion, because I could have been like, well, this is your fault,
and it's
like,
not going to bring him back in any way.
Exactly. So
yeah, you kind of don't play with the emotions, as the ones that are going to help you to sort of go on that journey, and don't build up stories that are just going to stop you from processing your emotions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Bit of a layered one, that.
Baseline. Wicked. Do you feel we've covered? I feel we've covered. I think
I've done quite a lot. Yeah.
Mate, I feel amazing. You've been phenomenal, dudes. Like, to go to the story the way you did, and to talk about the process after it, and how you've been handling this, and to be just so honest. I really, really appreciate it. Like, you're a great human.
I appreciate the opportunity to do something like this and do something different.
I promise, mate, my philosophy for the podcast is very much just, if you can help one person. I really believe that in anything you do. When I get out of bed in the morning, come and do a session here, hopefully they have a good time. But if one person can take something away from it, that's like a big thing for me. So I promise you, there will be a lot of people that have been helped in this. And anything changed in your philosophy now, like, other than the simple art of not giving a fuck? Like, have you got a go-to, this is what it is?
I think I am just at a point where I'm just like, fuck it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
It's a good philosophy,
I've come this far,
man.
like...
Yeah, let's go.
I'm also at that point now where, you know, it makes me... I've been very good at kind of identifying what situations and what people that are in my life are not good for me, like, you know, for whatever reason, because they're on their own journey, and it's too much to be part of mine. So I'm just kind of like, I'm less tolerant to bullshit now, which I was getting that way anyway, because I thought, you know, being a dad, but yeah, I just... For me, I'm just like, I've got to do everything that I can, because, you know, I've got my family to look after.
Yeah.
You know, I want to do what I've always done in the past sort of 6 or 7 years. I want to be the best role model that I can for my kids. I want to be a good husband. You know,
it sometimes takes a big sledgehammer moment to sort of shock you into that, doesn't it? But I like that quote. Every man has 2 lives. His second starts when he realizes he just has one.
Yeah.
And you've got that energy about you now. I've always had a sense of live life and give it a go and get involved in anything, and why not?
Yeah.
But I do genuinely feel this stoic like presence about you, and I'm sure it flickers and everything as we all do, because we're human. We're human.
Nothing's perfect,
mate. Yeah, so. Beautiful the way that you've articulated all this, and I really do appreciate it, man. Great,
thank
great.
you very much. It's been great.
If people, I mean, they can work with you on guitars. That will be a nice reason to get in touch. But maybe again, somebody is struggling and are at a loss and want to have a chat with you. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, man. again, I can only speak from my personal point of view. I'm aware that, you know, what I've been through is not going to help anybody. But if anybody is struggling, then yeah, just shoot me a message, man.
Where is it at? Nick?
Well, do it on NJMStudios. But
Nice.
you know, if it is a personal thing, just, you know, put a tagline, you know, personal request or something.
Awesome.
I don't know.
But is that all of the socials now? You're on a lot, aren't you?
Well, yeah, that's me.
Facebook, TikTok, the
Instagram
whole shebang.
thing. I'm not really sure what the best platform is these days. YouTube
Studios, and you'll be tagged in all this as well, mate.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. That's what I'm really here for.
Exposure.
Exposure.
I know, mate, like we say, if somebody can shoot across, why not?
Yeah, man.
That's beautiful.
I like it.
Dude, I'll do my bit. I'll say this. I do every time. But guys, remember, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I'll leave you on this. Always do, always will. Just be nice to one another. You're a beautiful set of buggers. See you later.